Hello everyone, we're all very excited about the EV market in India and how it's poised to boom even more in the near future. In fact, the global EV market was valued at around $660 billion in 2023. The benefits of an electric vehicle are obvious: low running costs, environmental friendliness, near zero emissions. There's a lot more. But where does the Indian EV market stand right now as we speak? How does it fare on the global stage, especially our two-wheeler EVs or electric vehicles? Well, Ultraviolette Automotive, an Indian brand, has just launched the F77 Mach 2, an EV bike that can accelerate from 0 to 100 in just 7.7 seconds. That's fantastic. Now, that is very impressive even by global standards. And today we have with us in our studios Narayan Subramaniam, who is the CEO of Ultraviolette Automotive Private Limited, to discuss the Indian two-wheeler EV market and their ambitious plan to make a global impact with the model F77 Mach 2. Narayan, welcome to Republic.
Thank you, pleasure to be here.
And it's been quite a journey for your startup, right? First of all, is there any specific market that your company was looking at? Where did the idea of this EV sports bike come from?
Sure. I think the idea was to put India on the world map when it comes to the best in class of design and technology. And I think historically when it comes to the automotive world, we've looked to the east or the west, and both of us founders, Niraj and me, I was working in Europe, Niraj was working in the US, and I think 2015 is when we felt the need to come back to India and felt we have the cumulative knowledge and the drive to make this happen perhaps. And it's that humble vision with which we got started in 2016. And once we forayed into the EV space, we looked at everything from low-powered scooters all the way to four-wheelers, and we felt India is quite unique, right? And most parts of the world, motorcycles represent something beyond just a means of mobility. There is a lot of emotion, passion associated with the culture of motorcycling, owning motorcycles. And we felt for electric technology to make a mainstream impact, first let's get started with a world that is emotionally connected with these types of vehicles, and that's how we narrowed down to motorcycles.
Okay. How's the reception been in India? And I'm going to ask you a follow-up question with that, the challenges and opportunities that you see in international markets with that.
Sure. So in India, it's, March 23 is when we launched the F77 Gen 1, and just 2 months back is when we launched the Mach 2 F77. Reception has been tremendous, and this is the first serious sports motorcycle that India has seen. And today we are competing with the mainstream IC engine categories.
When you say serious motorcycle India has seen, when you say serious sports motorcycle overall or in the EV markets?
In the EV markets.
EV markets,
yes. We've had sports motorcycles in the IC engine world. Pretty much every brand has.
But not made in India.
Yes.
Or developed in India.
Right. Yeah. So I think the originality of the idea and the R&D goes a long way in us being proud to talk about how we made every single part designed. What we say is we've imagined, designed, and made in India for the world.
Yeah.
Right. Like while now we are in the stage of expansion across India. Coming to your second question of the international scenario, we are slated to go live in Europe and Turkey in the foreseeable few weeks, right? So not too far off. And it's quite a proud moment because these are markets which we've viewed historically as the mecca of automobiles. And for us to create a product that is India and to proudly be putting it out on the roads in Europe is a dream come true.
How do you look at your firm, UV Ultraviolette, and compare it with the existing global EV players, for example?
So the existing global players, we could bracket them in two categories. One, which is the IC engine companies which have EV offshoots, and second, which are startups working on electric vehicle technology. I think one aspect we find in common across these companies is the price points that these vehicles are retailing at, which is in brackets in and around $20,000 and above on average, right? This caters to a very enthusiast community, but our aim with the F77s at Ultraviolette is to break into the usual motorcycling community in international markets.
I was speaking to him just before this interview, and you were telling me about the kind of talent that's coming in, the kind of engineers that you're working, not just Indian engineers, but you're attracting talent from around the world. So how are you leveraging Indian talent and resources, not just from India, from around the world, to create a world-class product?
Sure. So talent is, India has never been short on talent. I mean, if you think about it, the sharpest minds across the world are from India, contributing to different companies doing phenomenally well in different parts of the world, right? And so we were clear when it came to an industry like electric vehicles that required hardware, software, design to come together. India definitely has the ingredients to make it happen. We need the right focus, motivation and guidance to do that. And I think it's taken us a good 7-8 years to this point to make it happen. Today we are a team of 300 people at R&D, predominantly from multiple companies across India in the aviation, aerospace domains, automotive domains, and the consumer tech domains.
And what sets your, there are electric vehicles already in the market, and what sets your bike, your sports EV, apart from those existing players already out there?
We are in the early stages, but at this point I could confidently say we are arguably the most advanced electric motorcycle in the world. And I'm saying this because we've had to solve a lot of challenges from the technology side, from the cost implications, from manufacturing processes, get all of this together to make a product that is compelling from design, tech, performance, and the final price point that it lands at to the consumer. For instance, 10-level regenerative braking. We are able to today recover 25 to 30% of the energy through regen, and this is phenomenal. And I think about 4 or 5 times higher than what the two-wheeler industry today is at. When it comes to another system called the dynamic stability control, which maps the functionality between the ABS and the regen, because both are counterintuitively functional, right? And this took 2 years of software development to get the systems in place, test it across mild braking, active braking, panic braking, and train the system to kick in at the right scenarios. And this is a system that exists for the first time in the world across EVs spanning IC or electric motorcycles.
So you've already sort of, if I can put it that way, pushed the boundaries of electric vehicles in the sports segment. How do you think you can push it further to enhance performance? Is that possible?
Definitely. And you would have heard of the F99 project internally at Ultraviolette.
Yeah.
Now this is called the F99 factory racing platform. My intentions behind it are two. One of it is to, get for Ultraviolette to get into the world of racing and prove that electric can in fact outperform IC engine tech.
Yeah.
And the other aspect is a lot of the tech happening on the F99. The focus of R&D is very different there, right? We are developing things without a commercial implication at the first step, right? So once things get validated with a fast-track timeline, then a lot of it makes its way onto our commercial platforms, like the Regen, for instance, from the F99 to today to the F77s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the intent is multifold, and I think just the start.
Yeah, and I was going to ask you about any upcoming innovations, and you spoke about the F99 prototype. But before that, I'll just come back to this beautiful bike that we have here. So a few reviews of the bike. How's it been on the road? People who ride the bike, what's been their feedback of the product?
Sure. So the feedback has been it's been amazing. I think people really resonate with the design and the performance of the motorcycle. These are two things that are commonly the favorite aspects of all our owners. We've got an owner community called the UV Squadron.
UV Squadron?
Yes.
And they where do they operate out of?
Bangalore, Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Cochin as of date. And
because I remember the days when, when you, for example, sorry to bring another brand, but if you had a Bullet, for example,
right.
They would have a specific club or a riders gang in every city.
Right.
So is this similar to that?
Very much so, very much
okay.
so. I think just Independence Day, we had the last Squadron ride happening in Bangalore and Pune. And I think we're going to be spending a lot more time figuring out a lot of engagement for our community.
How do you keep them engaged, this community?
I think rides is one aspect, like-minded people getting together, very progressive mindset, people coming together. And I think tech is a large part of a common interest. So we like to augment our rides with a lot of tech experiences as well. We've got internal groups where, certain folks get access to tech that is developed at R&D but not yet released, etc. Right? So a lot of interesting things happening if you're a F77 owner today.
So one aspect of my conversation with Narayan before we came into the studio was how the UV product, the bike that they have developed, which is in stores right now, you can look it up, was how impressed even global players are of the technology. What do they have to say about, what is the most impressive aspect that they find about this made in India product?
I think it's a combination of design, performance, pricing, all of it coming together. We in fact launched the F77 and the F99 at EICMA at Milan last year in November. Reception was phenomenal, and folks from all over Europe were at the show, and I mean it's a great moment to hear really good things from people who are hardcore motorcycle enthusiasts, you know, right from adventure riders to street motorcycle lovers to sports motorcycle enthusiasts. I think the feedback was, this is a very futuristic looking motorcycle. It also represents me as a progressive person if I'm on this motorcycle.
Yeah.
And of course, the design of the motorcycle, you can clearly see cues from the...
Do you see that mindset change from your classic bikes to EVs to sports EVs now? The Indian mindset?
Ultraviolette as a brand is not a single motorcycle product.
Yeah.
Because we were high on the solving for high performance, right?
Yeah.
We started with the sports segment.
Yeah.
But I think over time, over the next 4 to 5 years, you would definitely see us span across multiple segments in the motorcycle space.
But my question was, do you see the Indian mindset change towards EV and EV products and EV bikes?
Sure, 100%. We've seen a lot of it happen in the scooter world, right? And with a scooter, it's a utility product. It is more of cost per kilometer. That is your consideration. But I think once that market starts to get mature and saturated is when you see segments that are higher on performance start picking up, and that's the stage we are in today in the Indian two-wheeler space.
And what are you doing as a company to reach a wider audience or a wider market across India?
Sure. So the first 10 months, our retail was predominantly in Bangalore. Again, aviation reference, our retail is called the UV Hangar in Bangalore.
Okay.
And just 2 weeks back is when Pune went live. Our store formats in other parts of the country are going to be called the UV space stations.
Okay.
So UV space station Pune went live recently. Cochin, Ahmedabad, Mumbai, Hyderabad, and a few other cities are coming up in the next 2 months. And focus for us today is to get distribution in place, to get more and more people to experience the products. You have a lot of opinions and mindsets about EVs because of the conditioning that you've been exposed to from companies that not necessarily have designed the best products in the last, say, decade or so. So my answer to everybody who has any sort of question is, please do a test ride. I think 9 out of your 10 questions would be answered by that alone.
And what's the first response you get when they do a test ride?
The ballistic mode is out of the world. So we got 3 modes called the Glide, Combat, Ballistic. As you can guess, Glide is for optimizing the range, and Ballistic is all power, all torque unleashed at the get-go.
And how do you work with the range? I mean, what are the different models? You said you had two models, right? Depending on the range. So which is the more selling one? Which sells more?
I think it's an even spread today. Folks that are sure their commute is predominantly urban prefer the F77 Mach 2. Folks that want to do the weekend rides and longer rides, they prefer the Mach 2 Recon. So the Mach 2 has a range of 211 kilometers and the Recon has a range of 323 kilometers. And both of these today are India's largest and second largest range. In fact, Asia's largest and second largest on a two-wheeler.
It's a fantastic story also because you have two young men who went out there.
We'd like to think so.
2 young men who created a completely made in India product completely out of Bengaluru.
Yes.
Completely out of Bengaluru. So it's another Bengaluru startup success story.
So
right?
Both of us were here till our university days and spent about 8 odd years in Europe and US respectively. Came back in 2016, so it's back a full circle.
Back and you intend to be here.
Absolutely. I mean, Bangalore is such a beautiful crucible of all kinds of tech, hardware, software, and I mean that is the future of electric mobility.
Yeah, and you have the talent.
Absolutely.
Okay. And how's it been What's like the best compliment that you've received when you showcase this product, the UV product, let's say at a global auto expo?
What we really appreciated was at the Auto Expo at Milan, people were asking whether it's a European or an American company. And what that told us is one thing, right? India is doing things right.
Yeah.
And because we've been looking at all of these other countries as references or benchmarks for quality and design and performance. And say in about 10 years from today, if we are on the same stage commanding the same position, nothing more we could be proud of.
They must have found it hard to believe that it was an Indian product, right?
I mean, India of late has, in the last decade or so, we've got brands like Royal Enfield that have gone into multiple markets overseas. So I think the perception of India is already pretty strong, and I think companies like us will further enhance that.
And how many countries are you planning to sort of enter in the near future?
This year, you would see Ultraviolette going live in Turkey, Germany, Spain, and a few more, but these are the predominant
the EV
markets.
standards, I mean, are they tougher standards in those countries than here, or how does it work?
The regulatory requirements are different. The certification process is different. In fact, it's taken us about 18 months to get the vehicle certified for to be road legal in Europe. So it does come with a few hardware and software compliances as well beyond certain other Indian requirements.
And as an EV maker, I mean, I've found this conversation happening several times when I've spoken to some companies and their CEOs. They feel that there is a lot more that can be done infrastructure-wise for charging, etc. So how do you look at that challenge?
So, I mean, works both ways. Infra from the government support as well is something we need to talk about. And from the company, from the product side, how much range can you input into the vehicles? So, we were trying to straddle both of these requirements. That's when we figured the minimum range had to be 200, and then we were able to maximize it all the way to 300 plus. So, on the product side, we've maximized the range that you would require on a weekly basis for an urban commute. We've also partnered with HPCL recently to have our charging stations of highway fast chargers across cities. I mean, points connecting multiple cities. So this is called the UV Supernova. So UV Supernova has already gone live in Karnataka, Chennai, around Pune, Mumbai as well. And as we scale, you will see the network from the ultraviolet side scaling as well. And these are 6 and 12 kilowatt highway DC fast charging stations. And for 40 minutes to top up from 20 to 80%, and you're good to go.
And my last question to you would be to people out there who ask if EV sports bikes are safe. I mean, there is also that block that some people have that, you know, about EVs and are they safe? So what's your response to them?
Safety has been one of our foremost priorities. In fact, so much R&D went into the battery tech alone as much as the rest of the vehicle. Over 7 years, we've gone through about 8 different generations of the batteries before finalizing on the architecture for the F77. We've got 5 levels of safety from mechanical, thermal, electrical, electronic, software. If I delve into that, we need more time on this segment.
No, go ahead.
Things like cell level fuse, right? For instance, figuring out at what threshold does the fuse break. If there's something off with the cell, isolating the cell from the circuit. You need thermal safety, chemicals that absorb heat within the battery pack. Thermal optimization. We have materials in the batteries that function both structural and thermal requirements, right? So bringing in structural stability, integrity, as well as even heat dissipation to the outsides of the pack. And our battery tech is completely air cooled, right? So which means it's more advanced than a liquid cooled system, because we're able to manage all the thermals with an air cooled system today, thereby reducing weight of a radiator and a pump, reducing the cost of adding those components as well. Safety also goes beyond the batteries. We've got traction control, we've got ABS. The dynamic stability control I spoke about earlier was not a requirement from any regulatory standpoint, but a responsibility as a manufacturer, where you know your product could have a few edge cases, and we felt it is important to solve those as well, right? What happens when a panic braking situation between ABS on one side and the regen on the other side? So things like this, when you're designing for edge cases, testing is a very, very important time-consuming process, and you cannot accelerate or fast-track the hours a vehicle needs to spend on the road. In fact, we have a test fleet of vehicles. Each of those vehicles today has covered over 1 lakh kilometers, right? And that is incredible. In about 3 years, we've put these vehicles to 1 lakh kilometers each and took them back to ARAI and did a recertification on the range. We still got a 304 kilometer recertified range after 1 lakh kilometers. And that led us to have a data-based approach, data-driven approach to offer, I think we should check it, but perhaps the world's highest warranty of 8 years and 8 lakh kilometers. I mean, you may never ride.
Yes, of course.
You'll take a couple of generations to probably cover 8 lakh kilometers, but that's a confidence we have on the tech.
I mean, I haven't taken a test ride on this bike, ladies and gentlemen, but I'd love to ride that bike.
Absolutely.
And what I feel really, really good about is a fantastic Indian product. And we're sitting in Bengaluru, out of Bengaluru, made in Bengaluru, designed in Bengaluru, and it manufactured in Bengaluru. And it gives us a lot of pride that you have an Indian product. India's first EV sports bike going global. And what an advertisement it is for Indian automotive industry. Thank you, Narayan, and all the best to Ultraviolette and UV.
Thank you.
And may you guys and your tribe grow.
Sure.
Thank you for joining us.
We have to do the ride soon. And
we will do the ride soon. We will do the ride.
Pleasure being here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Hello everyone. We're all very, very excited about the EV market in India and how it's poised to boom even more in the near future. In fact, the global EV market was valued at around $660 billion in 2023. The benefits of an electric vehicle are obvious. Low running costs, environmental friendliness, near zero emissions, there's a lot more. But where does the Indian EV market stand right now as we speak?